217 Formosa Strait, October 24th, 1944, Fire 6. The last torpedo leaves the stern tube of the USS Tang submarine. The submarine shudders as the compressed air escapes into the sea. In the control room, the men count silently. 10 seconds, 15. Then the sonar sounds. Captain, the torpedo is flying straight. And, sir, it's turning back. For a split second, no one moves. 87 men are suspended between physics and fate, listening to the propellers of their own weapon turning through the black water. Submarine warfare in the Pacific is no longer defensive. It is economic warfare. The U.S. Navy has decided that Japan will be starved, not stormed. Tankers, cargo ships, troop transports, every hull sunk strengthens the blockade. But there is a problem. American torpedoes are not working reliably. The Mark 14 dives too deep. Magnetic detonators explode prematurely. Or not at all. Captains watch as perfect firing decisions end in silent hits and failed explosions. Confidence is shattered. This is where Commander Richard O'Kane comes in. He is not reckless. He is analytical. He believes that the solution to the problem of unreliable equipment is to reduce variables. Shorter range, clearer geometry, less time for failure. His doctrine is based on measured aggression. About 800 to 1,000 meters, surface at night, for speed and surprise. Penetrate the convoy's screen rather than firing from the perimeter. Inside the formation, the escort looks outward. Inside, the submarine becomes harder to track. O'Kane sets a clear, quantifiable goal for the USS Tang: sink more enemy tonnage than any other American submarine. Not symbolic success. Numerical superiority. October 1943. Patrols, 0 out of 5. Ships sunk, 0 out of 33. The Tang is a new Balau-class submarine. 10 torpedo tubes, long range in the Pacific. The crew is young enough to adapt and experienced enough to understand the risks. O'Kane trains them relentlessly. Fire control decisions are reviewed twice. Range estimation improves. Torpedo spread narrows. No wasted shots. The philosophy is simple. Close range compensates for incorrect depth settings. Short bursts reduce the likelihood of malfunction. Aggression reduces the enemy's reaction time. January 1944. First patrol. Contact on radar. The convoy is moving with minimal escort. O'Kane does not linger at a distance. He orders the Tango to surface after dark and increases speed. The diesel engines propel it forward at a speed of over 20 knots. Through binoculars, the convoy appears larger. The silhouettes of merchant ships. One destroyer zigzagging ahead. O'Kane turns inward. He maneuvers the Tanga between the ships, reducing the distance to less than 1,000 meters. Torpedo settings are fixed. Gyroscopic angles are set. Fire 1, Fire 2. 2 cargo ships shudder from the impact. Explosions ripple across the black water. Then the destroyer reacts. Its bow swings sharply. Searchlights flash. Engines roar. It accelerates straight toward the Tanga. If they dive, there will be depth charges. But the other tanker is off to the side, completely exposed. O'Kane has a few seconds. Dive and survive, exercising caution, or stay on the surface and attack again. He looks at the target, then at the approaching destroyer. Get ready. The distance to the destroyer is 1,200 meters, and rapidly decreasing. Its bow cuts through the water, and its silhouette grows larger with every passing second. On the Tango, they barely manage to evacuate people from the deck. Before the hatch closes, emergency dive, down, bubble, 243. The bow descends, 10 meters, 20, 30. The water presses against the hull like a metal blanket. The destroyer passes over them. It missed, but now it knows where to look. 60 meters under the keel. Hold 45. Silence while moving. O'Kane looks at his tablet and stopwatch. He's not running away. He's counting. After an attack, a destroyer almost always performs a standard maneuver. It flies past, turns sharply 120 to 150 degrees, follows the likely escape route of the submarine, and only then drops depth charges. If the Tang immediately changes course, it will be intercepted. If it holds out for 18 to 20 seconds and goes at an angle, the destroyer will cover the empty space. Course 210. Hold. Speed 2 knots. Depth 50 meters. The first salvo of depth charges falls after 22 seconds. A dull thud. Second. Third. Explosions at a distance of 80 to 100 meters. The hull groans. The lights flicker. Everyone communicates in whispers. Only the mechanical trembling of metal and the distant rumble of propellers overhead can be heard. And there, on the surface, the convoy is already on fire. 2 torpedoes launched before diving did their job. One transport stops, tilting to the right. Another breaks through the smoke trail. Illuminated by flashes, people on deck run in panic. Searchlights cut through the darkness. Shots ring out into the void. The ships break formation, trying to disperse. And that is what makes them vulnerable. In tango, adrenaline and fear mix in a single breath. Someone clutches a wrench as if it were a weapon. Someone else stares at the pressure gauge as if it were showing their fate. They understand. They have just done what other submariners do not do. They have entered the convoy and struck almost point blank. After another power surge, the red emergency lights come on. The destroyer is approaching for the second time. Now it is closer. Explosions, 40 to 60 meters away. Water hits the hull like a hammer. There is a short, dry crack. Somewhere, pipe fittings are breaking. Depth 62 meters. Do not exceed 70. Hold. No noise. O'Kane's voice remains unchanged. He just adds another number to the calculation. The destroyer has changed its movement pattern, so they outsmarted it, but now they will be pursued by more than one. Progress. After completion of first patrol. Patrols. 1 of 5 ships sunk, 5 of 33. Suddenly the sonar comes to life. Fast contacts. 1, 2, 3. Direction changing rapidly. Distance. Closing in. Approaching from different directions. O'Kane looks at the map as if he can see their plan in advance. It's not just one hunter, he says quietly. It's a network. And at that moment, Tang realizes the worst. They may already be surrounded. The second patrol began without fanfare and without illusions. After the first voyage, O'Kane already knew that the main enemy was not only the Japanese escort, but also his own failure statistics. Torpedoes could fail, but distance, time, and order of actions were what he controlled. Now the enemy was learning too. The convoys became denser. The destroyers no longer wandered aimlessly. They maintained discipline, one in front, one on the flank, another in the rear, all with the same repetitive zigzag pattern, like a metronome. The searchlights worked in short pulses. Signal flares appeared on the water. The guards stopped reacting too late. Now they were looking for threats in advance. Night. Tang on the surface. O'Kane is not steering the boat from the outside, but straight into the column. The distance to the nearest transport is 1,500 meters and falling. He chooses not the ideal position, but the one they don't expect, between the second and third ships, where the escort usually looks outward, not inward. Hold course. Don't make waves. Speed 17 knots. Seconds drag on longer than minutes. On the right, the dark mass of the tanker looms. On the left, the silhouette of a freighter. Below the bow, the white stripes of their keel lights are visible. Tang goes inside, like a knife through butter. At this moment, everyone in the torpedo compartment is waiting for the command to fire. But O'Kane does not fire. He looks at the angles. At a distance of 900 to 1,000 meters, even a small error in estimating the speed of the target turns the torpedo salvo into an empty trail. O'Kane does what seems illogical to people on the brink. He waits another 5 seconds for the convoy to set up the correct sector itself. The mental duel continues silently. He against the Japanese escort commander, who zigzags according to a pattern, convinced that he is forcing the submarine to miss. O'Kane counts ahead. In 12 seconds, the destroyer will complete its zigzag and open a clear line for a salvo at the transport. And then, fire. Fire 1. Fire 2. 2 torpedoes are launched in quick succession. Everyone listens. One hit comes quickly, a dull, heavy thud. The transport bursts into flames as if tanks are exploding inside. The flames climb the superstructure, people scatter, the ship begins to lose speed. But the second torpedo passes. There's a sound of contact, or even a near explosion, and nothing. No column of water, no fire. Only the dark hull continues to move. In the compartment, there is dead silence, then a short, angry exhalation. They have once again encountered something that cannot be corrected by willpower. The torpedo could have struck and not worked. And if the escort saw the trail, there's almost no time left. The Japanese react instantly. The destroyer from the flank sharply breaks course and rushes into the column, where the Tang had just been invisible. The rocket illuminates the sea with a milky light. The searchlight glides over the waves and almost touches the silhouette of the submarine. Clear the bridge. Dive. Dive. The Tang plunges underwater. 15 meters, 30, 55. A red light flashes in the conning tower. Water presses against the hull. Above, propellers are fast and close. The first depth charges explode at 70 to 80 meters. The second volley is closer, 40 to 50. The metal groans as if it is slowly being broken. Someone whispers about cracks, but the chief engineer just points to the gauges. It's holding. O'Kane does not allow panic to become noise. He gives the order to change the depth to 62 meters and the course to 190, not fleeing straight ahead, but gliding under the probable attack sector, as if under a blade. After the second voyage, it no longer sounds like ambition, but like a proven fact. 2 out of 5 patrols, 10 out of 33 sunk. And that's when the news comes in, colder than the explosions. The radio operator receives a report. Japanese anti-submarine forces have begun to change their search patterns in the area. The report states explicitly that they are analyzing night surface attacks with penetration into the convoy. There is a suspicion that this is for one specific boat. The sonar adds another detail. Several fast contacts from different bearings are synchronized, as if working according to a single plan. O'Kane looks at the map and realizes now they are not just hunting. Now they are watching the Tang. The third patrol began without celebration. By now, Tang was no longer just another submarine rotating through the Pacific grid. Her record was circulating through fleet dispatches and wardroom rumors. Aggressive, precise, unusually effective. Patrol 3 of 5. 10 ships already gone out of 33. The ocean did not care. 40 days at sea changes a crew. Diesel fumes soaked into clothing and skin. Sweat never truly dried in the tropical heat. Condensation dripped constantly from steel bulkheads. Men slept in narrow racks that smelled of oil and recycled air, though the coffee grew stronger. Tempers shorter. Conversations quieter. Fatigue is cumulative risk. Every watch becomes heavier. Every sonar report carries more weight. Every shadow on the horizon could be the one mistake that ends the pattern. Japanese escorts had grown disciplined. Convoys now zigzagged by the clock, not by instinct. Signal lamps flashed coded adjustments. Destroyers maintained tighter arcs. One night, radar detected a transport column moving at 12 knots. O'Kane studied the plot. "Zig every 8 minutes," he said quietly. "Standard port starboard pattern." He did not order fire. Instead, he waited, inside 1,200 meters. Then 1,000. The transport shifted 10 degrees to port. Right on schedule. If he fired now, the torpedoes would cross behind her stern during the next correction. He counted silently. 5, 6, 7. At 8 minutes exactly, the transport began swinging back to starboard. O'Kane had predicted the delay between helm order and actual heading correction. He adjusted 2 degrees forward of where the bow would be, not where it was. Fire 1, fire 2. Both torpedoes left clean. One struck beneath the bridge. The explosion tore upward in a column of flame. The second detonated aft, snapping the vessel's spine. The transport began to fold in the middle. Patrol 3 of 5. 12 ships now. But the escorts reacted faster than before. Tang surfaced later that week to reposition ahead of another convoy. The sea was black glass, visibility low. Diesel engines pushed her at flank speed. Then a silhouette appeared dead ahead. A freighter, less than 400 meters. Hard right full rudder. For 3 seconds, collision was inevitable. The freighter's bow loomed, black against black. Tang heeled sharply. Metal groaned. The freighter passed less than 150 meters off her port beam. Searchlights ignited instantly. White beams swept the water, cutting across Tang's conning tower. Dive, dive. Before submerging, O'Kane made one more decision. A tanker inside the formation presented a perfect broadside at less than 700 meters. It was an absurdly close shot. Too close for comfort. Too close for error. Standby, tubes. Fire 3. The torpedo run would last seconds. Under 700 meters, there was no time for correction. No time for escort reaction before impact. The hit was immediate. The tanker erupted in a sheet of orange fire, fuel igniting across the surface. Burning oil spread outward, reflecting searchlights and tracer fire. Tang plunged beneath the surface as destroyers accelerated. Depth 20 meters, 40, 65. Depth charges followed within 90 seconds. The hull shuddered violently at 50-meter detonations. Red lighting flickered again. A gauge needle trembled near its limit. Men were beyond adrenaline now. They operated in practiced silence, exhaustion wrapped around discipline like wire. Patrol 3 of 5, 15 ships sunk. But as the boat steadied at 58 meters, sonar called out, "Torpedo detonation confirmed," and, "Sir, another track." O'Kane looked up. What track? Residual. Possible circular run from tube 3. Bearing unstable. Speed fluctuating. A torpedo that should have exploded cleanly now left an erratic acoustic signature. The screws sounded uneven, then steadier, then closer. Inside the control room, no one spoke. O'Kane listened. The sound was not fading. It was shifting, and it was moving unpredictably through the dark water around them. 4th Patrol. By now, Tang's name moved ahead of her. 3 patrols completed, 15 ships sunk. The number was no longer theoretical. It was measurable pressure on Japanese logistics. Patrol 4 of 5. The objective remained unchanged. 33 ships. Japanese convoy doctrine had hardened. Escorts no longer drifted loosely along the perimeter. They formed layered screens, forward picket, port, and starboard flankers, and a stern guard sweeping sonar in tight arcs. O'Kane studied the pattern and made a decision that would define the patrol. He would not attack from outside. He would enter the column itself. Night. Overcast. Low moonlight. Tang on the surface at 19 knots. Radar contact at 9,000 meters. Convoy speed 11 knots. O'Kane angled in from the dark sector between two escort arcs, slipping through a 600-meter gap created during a zigzag correction. At 1,500 meters, silhouettes resolved, two cargo ships forward, a tanker mid-column, and a destroyer offset starboard. Inside 1,000 meters, Tang was effectively in formation. Tube 1 ready. Tube 2 ready. Tube 3 ready. Distance to the largest tanker, 820 meters. O'Kane did not fire. Instead, he shifted priority. Target escort, bearing 085. The logic was cold. Remove protection first. Confusion multiplies faster than tonnage. Fire Tube 1. The torpedo left clean. Run time under 40 seconds at that distance. The escort never saw it. The explosion tore into the destroyer's forward magazine. Shock and flame erupted outward. The convoy fractured instantly. Fire Tube 2. Target second escort. Range 900 meters. Impact. The second escort staggered, engines failing, drifting across the convoy lane. Now the column was blind. Shift target. Tanker. Range closing. 750 meters. Fire Tube 3. Hit amidships. Fire climbed into the night. Inside the forward room, reload crews moved immediately. Each tube required approximately 10 to 12 minutes for full reload under combat conditions. Sweat poured under red lights. Diesel fumes mixed with cordite. Tube 1 reload complete. Tube 2 at 8 minutes. Tang remained on the surface, inside the convoy. Tracer fire streaked overhead. One cargo ship attempted to ram, turning sharply. Tang slid between two burning vessels at less than 400 meters separation. Heat washed across the bridge. Burning oil reflected orange across her hull. For a moment, the submarine was illuminated between twin pillars of flame. A target framed in fire. Hard left rudder. Full ahead. She passed through the gap and emerged into open dark water beyond the column. Behind them, chaos. Patrol 4 of 5. 26 ships sunk. Reload complete. O'Kane considered another pass. Sonar called out new fast contacts, approaching from beyond radar range. Reinforcements. Japanese anti-submarine response was tightening geographically and tactically. Tang dove at 211. Depth 30 meters. 50. 70. Depth charges followed within 2 minutes. Hull compression echoed through compartments. Light fixtures shook loose. Men braced against steel. But beneath the violence was another concern. One no explosion could drown out. In the forward torpedo room, a chief petty officer leaned toward the control room messenger. "Sir, we've logged irregular gyro angles twice this patrol. Tube 3 showed slight deviation on ejection." O'Kane listened without reacting. "Circular run risk?" he asked evenly. "Low probability, sir, but not zero. A torpedo that turns back does not discriminate." Above them, escorts hunted more precisely than ever. Below, the possibility existed that their own weapon could become the greatest threat. Patrol 4 of 5. 26 of 33. The pattern was tightening. From both sides. 5th Patrol. 5 of 5. 26 ships already gone. The number hovered just below the final mark, close enough to feel inevitable. Confidence aboard Tang no longer felt sharp. It felt settled, controlled, almost fatalistic. They had survived depth charge patterns, night surface chases, near collisions, torpedo failures. The crew moved with quiet efficiency. No wasted motion, no raised voices, but small irregularities had begun to surface. A forward tube reported slight gyro misalignment during routine testing. One torpedo required recalibration of its depth setting after a minor fluctuation. Nothing dramatic, nothing that justified aborting a patrol, just deviations measured in degrees. In war, degrees matter. October 24th, 1944, Formosa Strait, radar contact, large convoy, multiple freighters, at least 2 tankers, several escorts. O'Kane studied the plot in silence. Dawn was less than 2 hours away. He could shadow them, wait for daylight to clarify identification. Daylight meant visibility, but also aircraft. The Formosa Strait was narrow, air patrols frequent. Night offered concealment. It also offered chaos. He weighed the variables. Fire now in darkness, risk misidentification and tighter maneuvering room, or wait for dawn and risk air coverage, trapping them shallow. He made the decision quickly. We attack tonight. Tang moved on the surface at high speed, cutting inside the convoy track. Range closed from 4,000 meters to 1,500. Inside 1,000 meters, silhouettes emerged clearly. Setup spread. Tubes 1 through 4. Distance to first target, 900 meters. Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4. 4 torpedoes left in sequence. The first struck a transport beneath the bridge. The second hit a tanker forward of the engine room. The third detonated under a cargo ship's stern. The fourth, another transport, erupted in flame seconds later. 4 hits in less than a minute. The convoy disintegrated into panic. Ships veered off course. Signal lamps flashed wildly. Tracers cut across the night sky. Reload forward tubes. Reload time under combat stress. Approximately 10 minutes per tube. Men moved fast, stripped to sweat-soaked undershirts under red lights. Tang stayed inside the formation. Target bearing 035. Range 800 meters. Fire 5. Impact. Another freighter burning. Fire 6. Detonation amidships. The ship listed immediately. The water around Tang filled with debris and oil. Burning fuel spread across the surface. Visibility flickered between darkness and firelight. Escort screws accelerated. Dive, dive. Tang slipped beneath the surface at 214. Depth 20 meters, 40, 60. Above them, chaos continued. Inside, sonar tracked multiple breaking hulls, secondary explosions. Then a quiet report from the torpedo room. Skipper, inventory check. O'Kane looked up. 1 torpedo remaining in tube 10. Stern. Silence. Settled differently this time. 5 patrols of 5. 30 ships confirmed. Possibly more in the water tonight. Above them, escorts reorganized. Below, Tang held position in the dark. 1 torpedo left, and the convoy was not finished. 2:15. Tang holds at 55 meters. The sea above is a furnace of burning fuel and collapsing steel. Sonar reports overlapping returns, sinking hulls, drifting debris, accelerating escorts. 5 patrols of 5. 30 ships confirmed. The number is close now, close enough to feel within reach. 2:17. New contact. Bearing 070. Large, slow, probably tanker. Range estimate, 1,400 meters and closing. O'Kane makes a decision. Up periscope depth. Slow rise. Depth 40 meters. 30. Periscope depth. He raises the scope only inches above the surface. The lens catches firelight, reflecting off smoke columns. A tanker emerges through haze, damaged but not yet sinking. Distance, 950 meters. Too far for certainty with a single stern torpedo. He lowers the scope. Hold. 219. Escort screws pass 300 meters to port. Too close. If he fires now, the escort will mark the origin instantly. He waits. Controlled chaos. Above, ships burn. One freighter capsizes, its hull rolling slowly. Another detonates in secondary explosions. Searchlights sweep erratically, illuminating smoke and flame rather than open water. 222. Range now 820 meters. Fire control reports. O'Kane recalculates manually. He no longer trusts the torpedo data computer alone. Too many minor irregularities logged this patrol. Bearing drift, 2 degrees per minute, starboard. Target speed, 8 knots, slowing. He adjusts gyro angle by hand, subtracting where the tanker will be, not where it is. The intellectual duel continues, he against the escort commander, attempting to reform defensive geometry. 224. Contact closing fast from stern quarter. Sonar warns. Another destroyer accelerating. Time compresses. O'Kane must choose the precise second between escort crossing angle and tanker's corrective rudder shift. If he fires early, the tanker clears the track. If he fires late, the destroyer gains firing position. 225. Range 760 meters. Inside 900 meters. Extreme close engagement. He raises the periscope again. Through smoke and flame, he sees the tanker beginning a slight turn to port. He anticipates the completion of that turn before it fully begins. Standby. Tube 10. Silence in the control room. Men do not move. 5 patrols of 5. 31 ships now believed sunk tonight. 1 torpedo remaining. 0226. Escort screws surge louder. Bearing tightening. O'Kane corrects 2 more degrees manually. Final bearing 078. Set depth 10 feet. Impact exploder only. He will not risk magnetic detonation. 227. The destroyer crosses behind the tanker, momentarily masking Tang's probable position. This is the window. Fire 10. Compressed air slams through the stern tube. The submarine trembles slightly as the final torpedo leaves. Inside the hull, every man listens. The weapon runs into darkness. No one speaks. Seconds begin to count themselves. 022705. The final torpedo is running clean. Speed 46 knots. Depth setting 10 feet. Tang holding at 55 meters. Inside the control room, no one moves. 22712. Running hot. Straight. Sonar reports. 7 seconds since launch. 22718. Range increasing. 600 meters from stern. Normal. 22724. A pause. Skipper. Slight bearing drift. O'Kane looks up. How much? 2 degrees. Correcting. No. Sir, it's not correcting. 022731. Bearing changing rapidly. Speed inconsistent. The torpedo's acoustic signature wobbles, then steadies, but not on outbound course. 22736. Sir, it's curving. Distance from Tang, approximately 900 meters and decreasing. 22741. There is no confusion now. Circular run. The sonar operator says quietly. A torpedo that completes a circular run will describe a wide arc and return toward its point of origin. At 46 knots, that arc closes fast. 022745. Distance 800 meters. Closing. Depth 55 meters. O'Kane has roughly 10 seconds to decide. Option 1. Dive deeper. Increase distance vertically. But depth here is limited. Under 70 meters before seabed risk. Option 2. Flank speed and attempt lateral evasion. But acceleration noise will not outrun a torpedo already turning inside its own arc. Option 3. Emergency reverse and hard rudder. hoping to slip outside the circle. 2:27:49. Helm, hard right full rudder, ahead flank. Diesels cannot help. They are submerged. Electric motors surge. The hull vibrates. 2:27:52. Distance 600 meters. 2:27:55. 500. The torpedo is now running toward them at combined closing speed over 60 knots. 2:27:58. 400 meters. O'Kane does not raise his voice. Angle down, 65 meters. 2:28:01. 300 meters. The acoustic pitch grows louder, high, mechanical, relentless. 2:28:04. 200 meters. There is no more geometry left to calculate. 02:28:06. Impact. The explosion strikes aft, starboard side, near the engine room. A white shock wave slams through the hull. Lights extinguish instantly. The control room is thrown into blackness. Men are hurled against steel bulkheads. Instruments shatter. Water enters with force. Compartments rupture. The aft engine room floods almost immediately. Pressure doors attempt to seal, but twisted frames jam under distortion. The submarine pitches sharply downward. Depth 65 meters, 70 beyond. Internal air compresses violently as the hull descends. Somewhere aft to a secondary detonation, possibly batteries rupturing, sends a surge of chlorine gas forward. In darkness, emergency lanterns flicker dimly. Oxygen masks, but flooding is faster than procedure. The angle increases, 30 degrees nose up, as the stern collapses under weight of incoming sea. Water roars through broken piping. Men fight instinct, clawing toward forward compartments. 02:28:40. Tang strikes bottom at approximately 55 meters of depth, settling hard. Silence does not come immediately. There is metal groaning, the sound of rushing water. Then gradually, only the faint hiss of escaping air. Inside the forward torpedo room, a handful of men remain alive. The aft compartments are gone. O'Kane regains consciousness in darkness. He does not know how many survived. He only knows the boat is down, completely. The sea above is quiet again. Tang rests on the seabed, and not all were dead. When Tang settled on the seabed, she carried 87 men. Within minutes, most of them were gone. The stern compartments had taken the direct force of the explosion. Flooding there had been immediate and irreversible. The control room and forward spaces held pockets of air, but pressure was rising and oxygen falling. Water temperature outside, warm but unforgiving. Depth, approximately 55 meters. Time available, unknown. In the forward torpedo room, survivors gathered in dim emergency light. Faces pale, clothing soaked. Chlorine gas from damaged batteries drifted faintly aft. Someone counted. Too many voices missing. The number would become clear later. Only 9 would survive. But in that compartment, the arithmetic was simpler. Stay and suffocate, or attempt escape through a torpedo tube. Escape from 55 meters required procedure. The forward tube had to be emptied, outer door opened, inner door sealed behind each man. Flood the tube, equalize pressure, then force the body out into black water with only lungs full of air. It had been trained. It had never been executed in combat. O'Kane evaluated the situation without dramatics. Remaining air would not last long. The hull was stable, but damaged. Rescue was impossible. If they did nothing, all would drown. If they attempted escape, some might live. The intellectual duel was not with an enemy now. It was with physics. Pressure at 55 meters is over 5 atmospheres. Surface too quickly and lungs rupture. Panic inside the tube means death for the next man waiting. O'Kane made the decision. We go, one by one. Men stripped excess gear, no heavy boots, no unnecessary weight. The first man entered the forward torpedo tube, inner door sealed. Water began flooding in. In darkness, cold water climbed from boots to chest to throat. The man had seconds to inhale deeply before the compartment fully flooded. Pressure equalized. The outer door opened. He pulled himself forward into open sea. Inside the boat, the next man waited in silence. 8 more followed. Each man had perhaps 10 seconds of usable breath, once clear of the tube. 55 meters upward in darkness feels endless. The instinct is to exhale in panic. They had been trained not to. Swim slowly, control ascent. Let expanding air escape gradually. Black water above. No light, no reference. Then, faint moonlight. The surface broke around them one by one. 9 men. Behind them, Tang remained on the bottom. On the surface, burning debris from the convoy still drifted. Japanese escorts were nearby. Within minutes, searchlights caught movement in the water. There was no fight left. The survivors were pulled aboard Japanese vessels, disarmed, separated. O'Kane, exhausted and partially injured, was brought onto a destroyer deck. Oil clung to his uniform. He looked once at the sea, where Tang had gone down. He did not speak. The prisoners were transported to Japan. Interrogations followed. Isolation. Years in captivity. From guards and fragments of overheard conversation, O'Kane learned slowly that the war was shifting. American forces were advancing across the Pacific. The Philippines were contested. Carrier raids were striking closer to the home islands. He could not confirm details. He only sensed direction. In captivity, time moves differently. Days stretch. Rumors replace reports. 87 had sailed. 9 remained. O'Kane waited behind barbed wire, uncertain whether the submarine war he had shaped was continuing, or whether Tang's loss had ended something larger. Outside the camp, distant aircraft engines sometimes crossed the sky. The sound was unfamiliar and growing more frequent. August 1945. The war ended, not with a submarine attack, but with silence. Japan surrendered. Prison camps opened. Emaciated American officers stepped back into daylight that no longer carried the sound of sirens. Richard O'Kane survived captivity. He had endured interrogation, isolation, uncertainty. For months, he did not know whether the submarine force still fought the way Tang had fought. Aggressive, close, deliberate. He did not know how the war would be remembered. When he returned to the United States, he learned the final accounting. 5 patrols of 5. 33 ships sunk. More than 116,000 tons of Japanese shipping destroyed. USS Tang had become the most successful American submarine of the Second World War by official count. But numbers never carried the whole weight. 78 men did not come home. Their names were recorded in Navy rolls and etched into memorials. Officers, machinists, torpedo men, radio men, cooks, young men from cities and farms who had descended beneath the Pacific and never returned to its surface. Tang's loss was not abstract. It was compartments that flooded in darkness. It was watches that ended mid-shift. It was bunks left empty forever. In 1946, O'Kane received the Medal of Honor for his actions commanding Tang. The citation described extraordinary heroism, aggressive tactics, and leadership under fire. The medal was pinned to a uniform, but it belonged to a crew. The submarine force studied Tang's patrols carefully. Close-range night surface attacks became part of accepted doctrine. Fire control procedures refined under pressure were formalized. Lessons written in steel and water became training material for future generations. Years later, museum exhibits would display photographs of USS Tang underway, lean and purposeful. Plaques would list the patrols. Model hulls would sit behind glass, visitors reading brief summaries before moving on. Some would pause at the casualty list. Most would not linger long. The Pacific today is quiet in the Formosa Strait. Merchant ships cross without fear of periscope wakes. The surface gives no sign of what lies below. At approximately 55 meters of depth, the wreck of USS Tang rests on the seabed. Steel settles differently with time. Marine growth covers once sharp edges. The ocean reclaims sound first, then shape. Inside that hull are spaces that once held voices, calculations, exhaustion, and resolve. 5 patrols of 5, 33 ships, more than 116,000 tons. 87 men sailed, 9 surfaced. The ocean does not remember in numbers. It keeps what it takes. Above, the water moves calmly, indifferent to history. Below, in the dark, Tang remains where she fell, a measure of what aggression achieved and what it cost. If this story mattered to you, support the channel. Subscribe so these histories continue to be told. Leave a like so more people see the story of Tang and her crew. And in the comments, write just one word: silent. Let's see how many remember that the ocean is quiet, but never empty.